The actual processes of individuation, the conscious coming to terms with one's own inner center, psychic nucleus, or self, generally begins with a wounding of the personality and the suffering that accompanies it. Marie-Louise von Franz, from her essay, The Process of Individuation, in Carl Jung's Man and His Symbols.
As being the principle of individuation, one's innermost divine destiny or cosmic destiny, the meaning of one's life, what guides one towards the absolute individual meaning of one's own individual life. And the dreamer has a difficulty first to find that lodestar, but then she discovers that it is Matthew 2:2, which is alluding to the Star of Bethlehem. That means a star which indicates a divine birth. In antiquity, one always thought that if a new bright star appeared in the sky, a future ruler or wise man or great man who would save mankind has appeared on earth. And that is behind the story of the Star of Bethlehem. So the dream tells her that just where she has difficulty of difficulties of understanding, she will in her innermost being find that Christ is born within her own soul. The Christ child represents the saving factor which is born within oneself. We are not divine, but we are the stable in which something divine is born.
You gave some hints in your book on Jung and his myth in our time of work that needs to be done in the future, especially in relation to projection. And you mention reflection.
Yes. As the counter mechanism, so to speak. I mean, projection and reflection are not a pair of opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Because projection, as the word says, throws behind your back your own psychic images and contents into the outer world. We live all the time in projections. We live in a world of projection. And reflection is the act by taking that back into yourself. But you can't do that by your own willpower. I mean, you have to be helped by the self.
True. So both of these activities of the psyche are below the ego or beyond the ego. It's not.
They are beyond. Oh yes, they are beyond the ego. But the ego can cooperate with them or persevere in wrong. For instance, Jung defines in a narrower sense projection, that we can only speak of a projection, though it's constant projection. What I think about you is a projection. What I think about all these people is a projection. I don't know you well enough to really know you. I have an image and I have a judgment, an intuitive judgment, but it's probably a lot of my own psyche in it. And but that you cannot call projection. Jung says in a strict sense, you can only begin to call it projection when it's disturbing. When there is a disturbance, when I, for instance, constantly quarrel with you or constantly misunderstand you and it becomes a kind of difficulty between you and me, then one can speak of a projection. And that is also the symptom which shows now the moment is to take it back, to reflect. The disturbance is the symptom which wants you to reflect. And say, now, why am I so emotional? Or why do I have these negative feelings each time I meet that person or so on.
And that is the beginning of reflection?
And that's the beginning of reflection, but it's only achieved when you really see in yourself that quality which irritates you or which you admire in the other. It doesn't help to say, oh, mea culpa, I have a shadow like so-and-so, I have an animus like so-and-so. That doesn't help at all. I must really see it, and that means I must catch it in flagranti. I must do something and say, my God, now I'm acting like so-and-so. Then I have it. Then I know where it is in me and how it's functioning in me. And then I know what kind of a voice I have and what kind of a body feeling I have when I live that complex. And then I can keep it inside and not put it onto other people anymore.
In the transference phenomenon, is there a gradual confrontation with evil?
Yes, because when a woman is in love, her shadow comes up in form of jealousy, power, wanting to put the man she loves in her pocket, eat him up completely, cutting out all other ladies around him. And there you have evil. Right away. And jealousy, as Jung once said, is the greatest flaw of the feminine nature. And in the man, the same thing. So if the totality is constellated, the self is constellated, automatically evil steps in very strongly. You know it yourself. As soon as things begin to terribly matter, then you get, for instance, aggressive or in a fighting spirit about them. Now, you see, for instance, my land here matters to me, so I'm in a fighting spirit to defend my land. If it wouldn't matter to me, I would say, oh, never mind how it looks like. All the more in a relationship.
So then one has to learn how to live with that.
One has to make it conscious, become conscious of it. And then on top of it, pardon it to oneself. That's the worst. At least for some people.
Is there a
But
connection
alchemy.
to the subtle body?
Yes, naturally. You see, Western alchemy is a parallel attempt to what in Eastern Taoism and Buddhism is trying to build the diamond body, or the eternal body, which survives death, which is a kind of subtle body.
So, dreams and symbols having to do with this building of a subtle body are really objective material. There is it's not just a myth or a story, but it's objective reality.
That is the reality. All the rest is superficial illusion. It's what really happens in a human being. And therefore, at the end of life, there's the big showdown. Have you frittered away your life in superficiality? Or as Jung said about a woman once, 5 minutes after her death, she'll not remember this life anymore. Or have you built something eternal in which your individuality can survive? And not to just get dissolved like the atoms of your body.
So death itself is the showdown. I mean,
I think so,
a
yes.
test. So
Let's look now at a figure which Jung described as the center of the psyche, the self.
In most religious systems, you have an allusion to a kind of divine center from which everything, all order and all organization stems. And if we can find out where dreams come, we can say from that center, whatever that center is. That center appears in the dreams itself, sometimes as a center, as a mandala, as an inner city, as a circle or a square, or some other abstract formation, or it appears as a divine savior child, as a savior figure, as a wise old man or wise old woman figure personified, something, a psychopomp, something which guides our psychic life. All these figures seem to point to that ultimately unknown and unknowable greater center in our psyche. Nowadays we speak very much of self-realization, and there's always the danger of mixing this up with what Jung meant by this, the self. For Jung, the self, written with a capital, is meant to be that
supraordinate inner divine center, unknown divine center of the psyche, which we have to explore all our lifetime. Nobody knows what the self in him is and wants from him. We need the dreams. We can say the dreams are the letters of the self, which the self writes us every night, telling us, do a bit more of that, or do a bit less of that, or go ahead to the left, or go ahead to the right. And as I say, if one looks back, one sees suddenly there is a pattern in this, as if the self with the capital is having a plan with us, a kind of destiny.
The question of an identity, what is the identity that is built in the individuation process, or if you call it the subtle body, and what is that identity that goes on is involved also.
It is involved. Now, you see, I know that one aged pupil went to Jung a few years before his death, and in order to find out what he thought about life after death, and he said, that won't help you on your own deathbed to think what I believed. You have to build up your own viewpoint. You have to work on it yourself and find your own standpoint. You cannot quote Jung and the dying moment of dying. Wouldn't help much.